Hi everyone, and welcome to the EMF protection episode of the observation deck. My profound apologies for it taking so long to get to this point, but as you can appreciate, it's been a hectic time for everyone, as I'm sure you are aware. Many of you will already know I have spent the last few weeks, or maybe the month and a half, testing what they call the reszotoneshield from Russia. I've had it in my possession now for about 6 weeks and have used it on a daily basis. Given the current push to install 5G everywhere without the required testing, I think this is a particularly important episode. I will be covering other aspects of a solution-based approach and what you can do to protect from harmful EMF transmissions. As many of you should also know by now, I try and give the most independent and truthful assessment without bias towards any particular product claiming to do what it states in the marketing, and just take a look at it from an independent point of view. And I must emphasize, I'm not an expert in the area, but now that I've been in close proximity to this particular device for a month, I can give you my honest assessment from a personal point of view. One thing I value above all else is your faith in my work, and I would not harm that just to push something I thought was not going to deliver what it claims. As for the rest of this episode, as always, it will be down to you to make up your own minds and make a personal decision one way or the other regards EMF protection for you. But I will be covering other aspects as well as the reszotoneshield. So, with all that being said, let's dive in and get some solutions out there in a world currently full of problems. I'll see you on the other side. Hi, and welcome to a solution-based episode of EMF protection and what steps you can take to increase your chances of staying safe from the effects of 5G or, in fact, any electromagnetic frequencies. I would like to make it clear, as I first stated, that I'm not an expert in this area, so please refrain from attacking me in the comments. I'm just trying to do my best for my viewers, and if I do make a mistake or you know more, then please be polite in correcting me in the comments. As stated, I would never knowingly give you false information, and for those with expert knowledge in this area that can help others, please leave your advice politely in the comments below. Now, in order to establish the potential of EMF fields on the body, what I'm going to show you is a quick abstract, not the whole paper, because I want those who may have been living under a rock to understand why it's important to cover this subject. My hope is that this is not just an episode, but acts as a suggestion prompt from those who have had personal experience of other ways and means of creating EMF protection ideas, and I hope the comments below will also serve those who watch this and read the comments, that you can be helped by them. My first stop is to clarify those who still think EMFs do not have any harmful effects on the human body, and for that we're going to pop over very quickly to this particular site. So I'm going to cover 3 sites very quickly, just so you've got a bit of background. And obviously we're on the National Library of Medicine pubmed.gov site, so none of the sites I'm going to visit will actually be sort of fringe sites. These are all official sites. And you can see here, this is going back to 2009, April 23rd, before the rollout of the current 5G. Disturbance of the immune system by electromagnetic fields, a potentially underlying cause for cellular damage and tissue repair reduction, which could lead to disease and impairment. Now, you've got the abstract here, and this is just one of the abstracts, but you've got similar articles, biological effects from electromagnetic fields, expert reviews on potential health effects, extremely low electromagnetic fields as effectors of cellular response in vitro, possible immune cell activation, etc., etc. So there's an awful lot, and again, with all of the links and the sites I'm going to visit in this particular episode, I will leave them all in the description below. The next one I want to visit is this one, which is the National Cancer Institute, Electromagnetic Fields and Cancer, and it answers all of these questions. And again, it links possible carcinogenics with electromagnetic fields and higher frequencies. It goes on about the spectrum, what are the common causes of non-ionizing EMF, and these are some of the things that we'll be covering a little bit later: radio and television signals, radar, satellite stations, magnetic resonance imaging, MRIs, microwave ovens. I'm going to do a demonstration for you a little bit later because I have an EMF meter, and I'm going to put on a microwave oven, and you can see, even with the oven door closed, what a ridiculous amount of waves propagate outside of that microwave oven. But that's a little bit later. Is the British NHS website, and even the NHS themselves, mobile phones, say a possible carcinogen. There is no question mark here, and this is a little bit later, 2011, and they go on to say that it's now been classed by the World Health Authority, classified mobile phone as a possible cause of cancer after examining a body of evidence on mobile phone use. Now that in itself should halt the rollout of 5G until further testing has been done. And it talks about the different groups. So the IARC has classified mobile phones as belonging to group 2B on their scale, which means there is a possibility they cause cancer in humans. An agent, so here's group 2B. An agent is probably carcinogenic to humans. The evidence in animal studies is sufficient but limited to humans. So I think that's enough information to tell you why I'm even doing this episode. And God only knows what will happen. Remember, these are very, very low EMF output signals that they are possible carcinogens. So you can imagine what the new millimeter wave could potentially do in terms of harm of the DNA and cancer and all the rest of the neurological effects and all the rest of it without even being tested. And they're whacking these up all over the world in every town, city, and that's not to mention the Starlink program that's currently being launched by SpaceX. So there's a very quick background on why it's important that we need EMF protection. So for that, let's continue. So as you saw, even in those three very short abstracts, the one on PubMed, the NHS and cancer research, the sites that studies that have shown that the dangers of EMF fields on any biological system. So one can only imagine the effects when the full network of 5G millimeter waves are in effect both on the ground and from above. And remember, if we are talking biological systems, then that means the whole ecosystem, including the pollination of our food chain. What I want to show you next is some rare footage of a live test that should convince anyone of the potential dangers associated with EMFs at a cellular level. And again, if you or someone you know isn't convinced just yet, then if nothing else, show them this clip.
In our second set of tests, we're using the smart meter. Before the exposure, we see the same thing as we saw in the first samples. Normal cell walls, fairly separated and looking healthy. So after 2 minutes of exposure in front of the smart meter at about 1 foot away, we see a totally different story. Sample 1, you can see a lot of degradation in the cells. The cell walls have been broken, and you see changes in the cells which are called mycoplasma. It shows a mutation to the cell. In the second sample, we see a different type of degradation to the cell membranes. You can see a corrugation here. This is called bottle cap formation, and it's known that this occurs due to oxidation or exposure to free radicals. So this third subject, when we did her sample, she had to be pulled away from the meter after 45 seconds because she complained about a increasingly severe headache. And here you see a phenomenon called rouleau, where the red blood cells are stacking up, which makes it very difficult for the blood to deliver oxygen to the tissues as they would be their normal function. Every single one of these is a degradation. Every single one of these shows a trauma to the blood cells. And that came from something, and the only variable was the smart meter.
So there you saw clear visual data using dark field microscopes. And it's not the only recorded test. There are many, many more. And the link I'll leave in the description below will take you to a list of these videos on YouTube. But using a smart meter output, which as you saw, and remember it uses lower band 5G wavelengths to send bursts of data on a regular basis throughout the day, 24/7, 365 days a year. And yet all the safety standards given to the public, at least here in the UK, sets the limits of testing to only thermal readings, completely ignoring the cellular implications, and then only for 6 minutes, which is obviously of no value in ascertaining safe exposure when using or living with or near devices giving off constant EMFs 24/7. I have no idea where this 6-minute guideline came from, but it serves no real purpose except to measure the output before any detrimental effects are seen to take place. Here is the UK Ofcom report stating the fact: only 6 minutes. So this is the Ofcom report, and you can see here, making communications work for everyone. Electromagnetic field EMF measurements near fixed wireless equipment operating in the 60 GHz band in Liverpool here in the UK. And it goes on, the technical report, and this is the latest one I could find. Publication date 21st of February 2020. Now I suspect during February 2020 this is the same time as the lockdown and the possible installation of 5G into education establishments. It's not very long, but I'm not going to go through all of it. I just want to show you. And obviously the overview says our measurements have shown that EMF fields from the fixed wireless system being used for this trial were well within the reference levels for general public exposure from the NCNIRP guidelines, and the highest level we observed was 1.2% of the reference level. So they're basically saying that they were very low. All of their measurements. So the network in Liverpool trial is provided by Blue Wireless and uses millimeter wave frequencies in the 59 to 63 gigahertz frequency range. Watch out, people in Liverpool. The network is made up of multiple distribution nodes installed on lampposts, which are linked together to create a mesh network. Take a look here. It talks about Public Health England, but 0.2.5. The reference level for general public EMF exposure for frequencies above 10 gigahertz specified by these guys' guidelines is 10 watts per square meter. This is the level to which we compare our measurements. Get this, this is the bit that I find crazy. All our measurements were made over a 6-minute measurement period. What good is 6 minutes? And the question I've got is, why 6 minutes? Why not 24 hours and see what the exposure does, as we saw in that previous cellular structure? And then it goes on about the methodologies that they use. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of it. This is the types of meters they use, and then they go on about 1.5 meters from that height, etc, 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 and then it gives you the angle of degrees that they got it and what they measured in over that period of time. But obviously most people, most human beings in front of or using Wi-Fi are going to be using it a damn sight longer than 6 minutes. Okay, so now we have the underlying reasons for needing to protect ourselves the best ways we can. Although I will say now it's difficult to imagine how this will be achieved when we have a network of these untested frequencies beaming down from low Earth orbit, or the so-called network meshes as stated in that Ofcom report, which for some reasons assumes we will only be immersed in such EMFs for 6 minutes. So, with that being said, my next visit, as many of you have been waiting for, is to the small USB unit I have been testing over the last few weeks called the reszotoneshield. To give you a reminder and some background information on the reszotoneshield, I'm going to pop over to their official website and share with you the claims made therein. So, let's pop over to the 5G reszotoneshield site. So here we are on the 5G reszotoneshield homepage, and as you can see, nice polar bear, that's the reszotoneshield. I'll get a closer view of that for you in a second. With it actually plugged in, I've taken a shot of that, and it starts obviously with testimonials of people that have used it. I plugged it in and noticed within 24 hours a real calming effect on my body. Muscle test results, for those of you who don't know what a muscle test is, it's the ancient art of Indian kinesiology, to touch or to test a muscle. So they talk about muscle resistance or lack thereof. But muscle test results could not get my arm to go weak as long as a reszotone was in my hand, which tells you that your energy was strong, according to this person. A profound shift in energy levels around me using phones, computer. I sleep better and have more clarity, and so on and so forth. Obviously, these are quite subjective. And there you've got some wonderful Photoshop pictures of just how large this invisible shield is claimed to be by the reszotone. 5G reszotone is the protection of your home and family. I'm not going to play you the video. There's loads of promo videos on reszotone if you want to find them on YouTube. But after many years of research, Russian innovation are proud to bring to the market the reszotone USB key. The key has the capability of producing a shield to protect and harmonize a family-size house when plugged into a charger. And when the key has been turned off, the radius of the shield is reduced to around the person's own magnetic field because of the device's own antennae capability. So there you have those two. I want to go to, obviously, we've got gasoline patents pending here using a version of this, the reszotone USB key. Now I say a version because when I look down here and had a look at these particular ones, the latest ones don't have this button that this tells you to press, and it claims here that fuel economy increases from 7 to 30%, and secondly it increases power in the whatever's burning the fuel by 20 to 25%. All the savings and power increase are due to a more complete combustion of the fuel so that the CO2 can be oxygenated. I presume that's O. The reszotone 7 fuel economy, and it goes on. Then we'll go to the coronavirus and flu prevention section. These are all the patents. Now I was sent the original of these, but obviously I can't speak Russian, so they didn't really do anything for me. I did over several weeks ask for English translations of all of the scientific background to what's actually going on within that USB, but to no avail. Anyway, again, these YouTube links take you to this, and it doesn't actually literally, you can see that it runs this silently. It's not me turning down the volume. And let me just go there. Now the whole video, which in this case is 10 minutes, is this. Alright, so it's apparently transmitting frequencies via the screen. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that, but it says it's antibacterial and it's a real nurse of your surrounding places. It prevents harmful bacteria, blah de blah blah. Watch 10-minute video below that contains the 3 SFF. They are still SSF images, however the image is changing microscopically, quantum SFF technology, and not visible with your eye. However, your body will get the benefits. And then it talks about these blue spheres in the laboratory. What concerned me from a rational point of view, and I'll read it, this is their website. The blue spheres, the rational intelligence, are a benevolent angelic race who are co-creators of the programs in the USB resotones. Alright, now, whether you believe in benevolent angelic races or not, I personally would not expect to see that on a science-based system. However, I will give an open invitation to 5G reszotoneshield to allow me and my viewers to see an interview with any benevolent angelic race, because I'm sure it would go viral. So, you know, I am not going to knock people's beliefs in anything, and whether there is an angelic race or not, I don't really want to see it on something I'm going to spend $350 on in terms of evidence of technology. Please don't take this as something that they photographed from reszotoneshield. As you can see here, this was just taken from a deviantart.com gallery. But it does give you a little bit of history. The license was issued by the Russian government and a patent. The Russian team of scientists has collected data from 3,000 people who have already used the USB resotone over the past years. Some of these people worked in highly toxic, radioactive and electromagnetic hazardous areas, but by using protective USB resotone, it gave them extraordinary positive health results with no side effects from radiation. I would like to see the science behind it, because this is supposed to be a scientific research report. This is abstract. It's hearsay, not science. The reducing, and then it goes on, but again, I want to see the science. I want to know how it works, and I've had this long enough, and which is why there was quite a large delay, because I gave them every opportunity possible to say, give me the English science, the science written in English behind the circuitry and what this is doing in order to create that bubble around, and as yet, and I'm keep completely neutral, I haven't seen or received any. Assessment of level of constant LCP. Alright, so this is currently, studies have been conducted on the use of catalytic programs on computers and several types of electronic devices of technical, medical and recreational purposes in the Brain Institute at the Scientific Institute of Occupational Medicine. And it goes on to compare the norms. I haven't seen this program. I know the guy that ran the program, which was speaking at a conference with Sasha Stone, very similar to this USB device, but at this moment in time, that particular device is now under investigation by the fraud squad here in the UK. I can just show you that here. So here's a quick look at the BBC News websites, and the Trading Standards Squad targets anti-5G USB stick. Please don't get this particular stick mixed up with the one I'm currently showing you, which is the reszotoneshield. But the Trading Standard officers are seeking to halt sales of a device that has been claimed to offer protection against the supposed dangers of 5G via the use of quantum technology. Now, the cybersecurity experts say the 339 5G BioShield, alright, so BioShield as opposed to reszotoneshield, so don't get the two mixed up, but there does seem to be a run on these types of things. So apparently this is a holographic nano layer catalyzer, but to cut a long story short, now they do lift the images from reszotoneshield, and it talks about all sorts of things here, but they are under investigation at this moment in time. I'm afraid that anybody who's going to spend that kind of money, it simply isn't enough in my mind. But let's just go to some of the testimonials, then you can see for yourself. I'm being as fair as possible, and you've got William in Scotland. 8th of March this year, is going to be a lifesaver for people who accept it. Unfortunately, many will not believe or accept, but for those who do, it will save lives. So I have had the USB for 6 weeks. This is Eva in Austria. There's Eva there. 6 weeks now. I'm so glad and grateful for it. When 5G was rolled out in my city, I felt so sensitive to it and thought that I'd have to move somewhere else. Now, with the USB, I feel the radiation much less when in the city. Most effectively, I feel the protection in my apartment. Now, I'm not doubting, seriously, people, I am not doubting these people's genuine feelings as regards the 5G reszotoneshield. I've had it for 6 weeks, and I must admit, I did feel better, but in all honesty, I was getting over a cold. It was coronavirus 14, by the way. It's not as serious as 19. But the point being is that it's very subjective. And I'm trying to be as fair as possible here. And it's going to cost you $350 for one of them. So I'm going to leave that with you there. And then I'm just going to go back to the episode. Now, as you can see on the screen in front of you, it looks like a small circuit board with a red light on top to let you know it's being powered. Currently, that one was plugged into a 3-pinned USB charger. The manufacturers claim it is also charged when removed from the USB charger by body heat, but I, nor anyone else, can possibly confirm that, since there is no indication, the red light goes out anyway, or reading that can be made as to that claim. Much of the information I was sent was what one could class as subjective reports and hearsay, with comments like, I felt so much better, or I used this for a few days or weeks and I felt lighter and my problems seem to have disappeared. And as many of you should know by now here on the observation deck, I do not take these sorts of references since they are far too subjective. Now, I will be honest with you here, and yes, I was and still am being given financial incentives in the form of a kind of affiliate deal and a discount for you, my viewers. However, I value my reputation above profit, so I'm going to give you my personal, subjective and honest appraisal. Does it protect against 5G? Well, if you can figure that out, and maybe a way to determine that, I would be most interested, since although the claims are there with wonderful images as you saw on the website, how would one possibly know? How could anyone tell if this unit is working to do what it and claims to do, and creates this protective shield against harmful EMF radiation? I don't know how. One would have to have advanced equipment, which I don't have, to ascertain any scientific claims over and above the subjective references that you've already seen. So with that in mind, I have no idea if this can be said to protect you from 5G. I know this may not be what many of you wanted, and it's certainly not what reszotoneshield wanted from me, but I do not want to be responsible for saying otherwise and subject you or your family to potential harmful effects, thinking you're being protected based on nothing more than a placebo effect, which, in all honesty, will do absolutely nothing in the face of possible 5G EMF dangers. Yes, it pulses. There is a pulse chip, something akin to a miniature or mini Rife unit, if you will, but does it protect from 5G? Well, I couldn't say with any assurance that it actually does. Now, I know my Russian contacts may not like my assessment, nor will I profit from the sale of these devices, since my overall conclusion is to say, well, until definitive scientific English written proof is made available, I cannot in all good conscience recommend this product, and I would never put profit over people, no matter how enticing that profit may be. So the question is, how do you protect yourself? Well, the rest of this episode has been produced to help answer that very question. So now let me move on to the next area of EMF protection. Let me take you over to a quick reference guide to show you some of the things you can do now to reduce the risks of EMF in your home. So here we are on our first visit to a website, and just to give you an update, because some people might not even realize it, but how are you exposed to EMF radiation? And we're not even talking about walking around outside and getting hit by Wi-Fi's everywhere, but We've got microwaves, cell phones, cell phone towers, obviously, power lines, cordless phones, appliances, Bluetooth headsets, any Bluetooth device, Wi-Fi routers, baby monitors. For those parents among you, don't put the monitor right next to the baby's head when it's sleeping. Please do not do that. Shared internet connections, i.e. neighbours, and anything internet related. So it says that a high percentage of the radiation that people are exposed to is from their microwave. And before I go any further in what you can do, I'm going to show you a quick clip of me with my tri-field meter showing you exactly the power that's coming from your microwave, and I would suggest you get rid of it. Check this out. So here I am with my tri-field meter in front of a standard microwave, and it don't worry, it's been removed, but this is a typical microwave, and as you can see, the meter reading is just sitting there very low. Right, oh, it's going for a peak, so 1.7, geez. Anyway, so the closer I move it, this is not on, by the way, right? I mean, it's plugged in, but look, see how what it's emitting, and it's not the bottom one that you can see the figure we're interested in. We're interested in the peak one at the top, as you can see there. Now this is without the microwave being on. It bursts at 8.8. This is way over the and I've got it on RF, as you can see there. All right, radio frequency. Now watch what happens, and I'm not going to do this for too long. I'm going to hold it on there. Let's see if I can get that, and I'm going to hit the microwave. Watch. Nuts, absolutely nuts. Okay, and that's with the door shut. Now I'm moving away from the microwave into the other room. You can see how far the microwave is. Now I'm in my front room. Let me see if I can get further away faster. Okay, I've put the microwave back on, and it peaks. I'm as far away as I can get. I'm actually in the bay window of my house now, and you can see here, look at the burst rate on this. This is your microwave, folks, and you need to get rid of it. It is absolutely deadly. All right. So 8,000. All right, 8,000 on peak millivolts. Dump your microwave, people. It's not worth it. And now back to this list. I'm sure that surprised you to know that you could get that much microwave radiation from that distance. Moving on. I'm not going to go into all the details on this site, but as usual, I will leave a link to it in the description below. Well, given the clip that you've just seen, first advice, get rid of your microwave. So use a conventional oven or reheat the stove, or eat more raw live foods so you don't have to worry about this. Get rid of your microwave. The one I just showed you is no longer used. Power everything down at night. Connect your Wi-Fi to a switch so you can turn it off at night and when you do not need it during the day. This helps lower the exposure in your home environment and get a better night's sleep. Again, I always do that anyway. Change your cell phone to airplane mode. And if you use your phone as alarm clock, it's best to turn off the wireless signal so it's not being emitted all night long close to your brain. Also, when you're walking or carrying your phone on you, if you do not need it, just put it in airplane mode. All right. I've got some other stuff on the mobile phones I'm going to show you in a second. 4. Keep all wireless devices out of the kitchen and the bedroom. Best to keep all these devices out of where you eat and sleep. All right. They are the two most highly used spaces in the home of where you spend much of your time. 5. Do not carry your phone on your body. This is very important, folks, because all of the so-called safety tests assume that it's away from your body, but everybody keeping their phone in their pockets. Or ladies, I know some of you sort of slip the phone inside your bra strap. Very, very bad idea, because once it's in contact with the body, it is already known by all mobile phone manufacturers that it exceeds by as much as 6 times the safety levels even given by the telecoms industry. And you know they've inflated those anyway, so please don't do that anymore. Put it in a bag or something away from your body and put it in airplane mode. Use a selfie stick. A great way to extend the distance between you and your phone is to decrease your exposure to wireless radiation. Talk on your wireless using the speakerphone. 8. Eat these spices and take a magnesium supplement. Spices rich in phelonics, including cinnamon, turmeric, ginger, cloves and rosemary, are showing in research to help protect as well as repair damage from EMF due to their protective capacity against peroxynitrates. And then, of course, earthing, vitamin G, G for the ground, walk on the earth. Here, vitamin G, G for the ground, walk on the earth barefoot as much as you can to receive the benefits of Earth's negative charge, and you can find out more there. So that's a very quick 9 points that you can do in your own home. Now let's take a look more specifically at the mobile phone side of things, because that's something that we all use on a daily basis. So here we are with 12 basic precautions to minimize exposure to radiation when using a mobile phone. This is actually a PDF file, and again I will leave a link in the description below for you. Limit phone calls to those that are absolutely necessary. I'm not going to read all of this. 20 to 30 meters away from your body in order to limit the impact of radiation. Do not carry your phone directly on your body. Alright, so make sure you've got it in a bag, or if you can. Those under 15 should not even use a mobile phone. In case you didn't know, there are several countries that make it illegal for anyone under 14 that I know of that to use their mobile phones. Let me just show you a slide of some of those countries. Here we are. It's a slide presentation that I found. Bill Gates didn't let his kids have a mobile phone until they turned 14. There's a surprise. Go on then. Why Steve Jobs didn't let his kids use iPads and why you shouldn't either. I can tell you why. Because the antenna that gives off the Wi-Fi signal sterilizes the kids. So just keep that one in mind. One thing Prince William and Kate Middleton banned from their home, which is, again, Wi-Fi's and iPads. Children's screens and social media, sleep, bullying, depression, suicide, text, neck, learning, attention, addiction, dopamine, neurotransmitter release because reward centers of the brain stimulate from the brain responses, video gaming, non-stop excitement, contact, flashing lights. This is the one I wanted to show you. Worldwide action. France, cell phone radiation labelling. No advertising to children. These are the laws. Wi-Fi banned in kindergarten, elementary, Wi-Fi off when not in use. And yet, in plenty of places, as you will see, 5G has been installed in schools. Belgium, ban on sale of cell phones for children. Wi-Fi banned in nursery schools. Israel, Wi-Fi banned in nurseries. Wi-Fi removed, minimized. Haifa schools as of April 2016, cell phones banned for classwork in schools. But we're all getting 5G to help education. Wow. India, phone radiation labelling, recommendations to reduce cell phone exposure, exposure limits lowered to 1/10 of the official levels. Some municipalities ban towers anywhere near schools. Cyprus, Wi-Fi removed from elementary classrooms in 2017. French Polynesia has even got in on it. Banned advertising cell phones to children under 14. Children should not use phones under 14. Awareness campaign. French Polynesia law and public awareness campaigns. Governments. So, guys, seriously. And these are court cases of the reason I've got this by the way is that the cell phone manufacturers, what emits from the cell phone is far exceeds the legal limit. So, and it says here, if you carry or use your phone in pants or shirt pocket or tucked into a bra when the phone is on and connected to a wireless network, you may exceed the federal guidelines for exposure to RF radiation. This potential risk is greater for children. Okay, do you get the point, people? All right, let's get back to the episode. So completing this particular PDF file, do not carry your phone directly. Those under 15, I've just explained that. Any elderly person, it goes on and on. I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs. One of the things I want to point out, point number 7 here, do not use the phone while in any vehicle, even when stationary. An enclosed metal container produces the Faraday cage effect, which maximizes the damaging impact of radiation, reflecting not only on the person phoning but also on other passengers, especially children. Thus, it is essential to step out of the vehicle before making a call. Use mobile phones should be avoided by anyone who has metallic objects on their head, whether magnetic or not, such as an amalgam, fillings and dental bridges. Make use of protective items to shield yourself from radiation. Make as many phone calls as possible using landlines. All right, so again, I will leave the link in the description below. So let's get back to the episode. Well, obviously, as you've seen there is, of course, much more on phones, but I think by now you get the point. So let's move on. For those of you who are unfortunate enough to have or be close to a smart meter, very little has been done in terms of research, independent research, but there is enough circumstantial evidence to show how detrimental it is or could be to biology, and in many reported cases a fire hazard. And obviously the amount of personal cases of cellular damage and ongoing research is growing daily. So let's take a look at what you can do to stop the emissions into your home from a smart meter. Well, I've seen people shielding these smart meters with kitchen foil and all sorts of copper foils and alloys of several layers. And if you have an EMF meter, it is something you can do quickly and test the before and after effects to make sure you've actually shut it down in those terms. And of course, there are specialist suppliers where you can get a sort of smart meter Faraday cage, which is what I'm going to show you now, like this one. So obviously we've got here now smart meter covers, and you can see this kind of mini Faraday cage setup that you've got here with this fine mesh that you can see that can fit directly around your smart meter. Sorry, let me just get back there. All right, so here's a few of the images, and you've got the diameters there, and you can obviously then measure so they go over the meters thus, and you can measure the before and afters. So there you go. Now it says on this particular site, and again I'll leave the link in the description below, that it's taking pre-orders, and I did check actually the stock. I don't know what date you're looking at this video, but due in stock on the 12th of June. I'm actually recording this video on the 10th, so it's only a couple of days, so it's not much of a pre-order, so it should be okay. And you can obviously check the reviews for yourself, or you can pre-order your cover now, or for a limited time we are offering imperfect covers at a significant discount. These covers have steel mesh that is wrinkled slightly but still work the same to reduce RF. They're simply imperfect in the drop down menu, so you can actually get a good discount as well. So, and then it goes into all the details, which I'm not going to bore you with, but just so you know that you can get smart meters completely covered. Now obviously you've got things for the Wi-Fi router as well, which is a very similar little Faraday cage thing here. All sorts of products sold out. The tri-field meter, which is the one I am using, so you might have to try and find one of your own meters elsewhere, but I'll have a look at that later on in this episode. We've just covered cell phones, and obviously they do all sorts of stuff for cell phones as well, but I just wanted to cover the smart meter covers for this particular part, and no doubt we might come back to this site and have a look at other things. So what we need to understand here is that while the world is busy with the attempted halting and slowing down of 5G because it's untested, it's actually been installed by what can only be described as stealth methods as part of the smart grid or the Internet of Things, because a typical smart meter has a burst rate using the lower end of the 5G range of around 2.4 gigahertz. And you've already seen the cellular effects using dark field microscopes these devices have on your body. And you can imagine living in what being promoted at a smart house with fridges and meters and all sorts of other tech. So here's another clip that should have you question the safety of the Internet of Things and think twice before allowing this type of connectivity to absolutely flood your home with EMFs. Take a quick look at this reminder.
I decided to find out what my blood looked like. I pricked my finger, placed a drop of blood on a slide, and looked at it under the microscope. This is what I saw. The cells are round, some are separate, and a few are sticking together. Overall, fairly healthy looking blood. This testing was done in a clean electromagnetic environment, and I did not eat or drink before or during testing. I then worked on a computer for 70 minutes and looked at my blood again. This time, the cells are sticking together like stacked coins. This is called rouleau formation. Later that day, I used a cordless phone for 10 minutes and looked at my blood again. And this is what I saw. Very unhealthy looking blood. There are virtually no single cells. Most of the cells are now in rouleau formation. A doctor told me this is what she sees with cancer patients. What I learned is that my blood goes into rouleau formation when I use a computer or a mobile phone. This type of clumping interferes with the release of oxygen and the removal of waste products like carbon dioxide.
The capillaries are so narrow that red cells must squeeze through in single file, showing the importance of their elasticity.
What are the consequences of rouleau formation? Poor circulation resulting in lower oxygen transport to cells and reduced waste removal. What are the symptoms someone may experience? Headaches and fatigue, difficulty concentrating, numbness, tingling, and cold extremities, and possibly heart and blood pressure problems, including risk of stroke. What is the significance of this? Live blood analysis may be a good diagnostic for electrohypersensitivity.
I don't think I need to add anything else, considering this was recorded over 11 years ago. One can only guess at the increase of the EMFs in our homes and daily lives. And the scary part is the massive increase in higher microwave frequencies being rolled out across the world using untested 5G technology. Now you know what effects a computer, a smart meter and even a cell phone has. If you happen to have one next to you, the next stage is to do something about it. Now, the personal aspects like caps, t-shirts and other assorted shielded items is fast becoming a thing, even more so now. So let's take a look at some of the options available, and again you can decide for yourself the best course suited for you and your family. But let's have a quick look at these items. So here we are on a particular site, Lambs, and you can see here, I'm not going to go through the whole site for you. This is just an example of what's available in the market, and I'm sure you'll find your own. But as I say, I'll leave links in the description below to everything that I'm showing you so you can see for yourselves. Boxer briefs from $29 a pair, and it goes on with lots of stuff. Now obviously we know that the crown jewels, you guys, need protecting from Wi-Fi, because studies have shown that there is a reduction in both testosterone and sperm count, leading to infertility. Whoops, let me just carry on. Trunks, briefs, beanie hats, again protecting your head, 99% wireless radiation blocked. T-shirts, I'm not going to keep clicking on these. Silver line protective masks. Well, if you want to wear a protective mask, that's entirely up to you. Personally, I like fresh, clean air. Snapback gloves. And then we've got women's underwear coming soon. And it's got all the sources of the information that you can use to prove to yourself and others who doubt. 2017 Maryland State Children's Environmental Health and Protection Advisory Council recommends for wired internet schools in minimizing RF classrooms. And if you recall, I showed you the the list of countries that just ban it altogether, including Israel and French Polynesia, etc., then the question is, why isn't everybody else doing it? But sorry, I am digressing. Boxer briefs, trunks, beanies, t-shirts, silver lined protective masks, snapback gloves and women's underwear coming soon. Let's get back to the episode. So obviously it did cross my mind that if it seems to be very important to protect the family jewels, as it were, then is it not possibility that with the advent of all this additional magnetic pollution, infertility rates will increase exponentially? So I guess the question is, irrespective of the cost of those boxer shorts or briefs, or letting your kids use tablets or phones with Wi-Fi signal going to completely the wrong places, what value do you place on being able to have a family? It really does seem, given the investment of certain groups under the guise of philanthropic ventures, there seems to be a multi-pronged attack on fertility rates. From vaccines to EMF exposure, both approaches serve to reduce population by terrifying amounts. All right, so moving on. Many people have no idea just how much radiation is being transmitted directly into your brain while using earbuds or earphones. So in this next link I'm going to show you, I'll give you information on that too, and this is how they work. Okay, so they're called air tube headsets, which is, as you can see here, a brand new era of listening to music and making calls with no EMF radiation. People, you really need to get a pair of these or something similar, air tubes. And it soars fully charged in just 2 hours, 200 hours of standby, making 20 hours of listening to music or making a call, and 100% radiation frequency reduction. And as you can see here, let's have a look, $79 a pair. Again, to avoid a tumour, I don't think there is any price you can pay. You've got all sorts. This is one of the most comprehensive sites I actually found, and I'll be coming on to this kind of stuff, this EMF shielding curtains and all that kind of stuff in a little while. But as far as the earbuds are concerned, you've got all sorts on here. As I say, this meters and detectors, apparel, but I just wanted to show you for this moment these different types of earbuds that you can get, air tube earbuds. So that's basically how they work. I was going to show you a video, but it's pretty obvious how they work. And then we move on to some of the fabrics, the curtains that you can see here to protect your home. And these are all shielded EMFs. There's plenty of videos on testing these types of fabrics, and they seem to work 100% in blocking out EMFs. One thing I would say though, and that I've noticed, and I'm sure you have by now, is like, oh my god, $320 for a set of curtains. Again, it's down to, I suppose, how much you value your home safety. But I'm going to show you cheaper alternatives in a second. A double bed will cost you, I mean, to be honest with you folks, you know, I'm sure some of you have got almost $1,000 to spend on protecting your sleeping area at night. But personally, I would go for the source itself. That's just me. And I can show you that. I did find, let me just bear with me for a second. And I went on to AliExpress, which I'm sure you're all aware of, or even Alibaba here, but I'll stick to AliExpress. You can just make your own account, and you can see that the prices for these to make your own curtains and what have you are a fraction of what some sites are actually selling for $1,000. So you can literally, I will leave a link in the description. I haven't got any vested interest in AliExpress. I've not got an affiliate program or anything like that with them, but given the cost that I've just shown you on some of these websites, then there's no end, if this is EMF shielding, what you can make if you buy the raw materials yourself. This, which is quickly becoming the go-to place to cover your walls, which is EMF shielded paint. Now, I've seen plenty of information on it, and it seems to work. But here's my suggestion. Again, if you look, 5 litres will cost you $320, and you paint the wall with it, as you see this guy here. You must ground it, by the way, and I'm going to show you a short clip on that. Now, I've removed the music from the back of this video for the simple fact is I don't want to get a copyright strike on something as insignificant as this. But what I want to show you in this particular clip, which is of importance that a lot of people tend to forget, is, as you can see here, the grounding straps are important. And you can see that they're being put on the wall before you start to paint, and it's just a copper strip. You can use copper mesh, which I'm going to come to in a little while as another cheap alternative, and you don't have to put them everywhere, they just have to complete it. And now the grounding straps are placed, we can begin applying the radiation shielding paint with the graphite, which is the active ingredients, which again I'll show you in a little while. But once that's grounded, then you would just attach it to earth, either on your existing circuitry, or you have an earth rod outside that you've literally grounded to earth yourself. And then, I mean, I'm not going to go through all of this, you just paint the wall as normal, but please make sure it's grounded. Let's move on and continue where I left off. Once it's grounded and it's earthed, then you can paint over the top of it in any decor you want, because obviously not many people want black walls. However, I'm going to show you, because I checked out several sites on the black paint itself and the cost, and I also noticed, being the geek I am, the actual active ingredient that protects you from electromagnetic radiation, as it shows here, and I'm going to show you that now. So as you can see here, all I've put in the search is natural graphite powder, and this is the active ingredient that's added to that very expensive paint, and that you can actually go and buy yourself. Let's just check that out. So it's just a whole bunch of powder. Now, in order for you to figure out, say for instance you bought 5 litres of white emulsion or whatever it might be, water-based paint, and you add the graphite powder. So if you bought a few kilograms of it, which you can get from many places, this is the American Elements Association, you can just put an order in, pricing and all the rest of it. But you can although buy, obviously this is in pounds, but you can do the same. That's 350 gram pack, but you can get 2.4 kilograms availability out of stock. I wonder why that might be. I think everybody's doing it. Is add graphite powder to, say, 5 litres of white emulsion. I would start off with a 10% mix and work my way up using a meter, which I'll cover in a second. And then you can find out the ratio to, say, 5 litres of paint and the weight of graphite that blocks 100%. So you'll end up with a black paint, and then obviously once it's dry you can go over the top of it, but graphite powder is exactly what you would be using. And here's all different examples. Again, we're back on Alibaba and AliExpress, and that's all there is to it, guys. It is. Now, if you want to know why I found out whether it was in fact the active ingredient, well, I went to Physics World, and quickly grown graphite film blocks electromagnetic radiation. All right, I'll leave a link in the description below. So you can literally block it out on all your walls and then just decorate accordingly. So we've got the science behind why the graphite works and the testing that's been done, and you can go and grab the powder from basically anywhere. And if you look, I mean, this is per ton, for God's sake. So you can imagine, you know, and there's the powder itself being displayed. And you can obviously 25 kilograms minimum order, but look, it's 50 cents a kilogram. Guys, start protecting your homes. Don't worry about the blocks, but it's the powder. Mix it with paint and go from there. So you can find all of this information, and as I say, it's going to be a damn sight cheaper than spending $320 on shielded paint, obviously for 5 litres. You can if you want to, but personally I would take the route I've just shown you. So I hope that's helpful. And then we move on to the meter that I was going to discuss with you, because to do any of this and make absolutely sure that you have got the readings that you want, the before and after, I personally have the Trifield TF2 here in the UK, made in the USA, guys. But obviously there are lots of other ones on the market, like the Acousticom. Let me find that for you, which I'm sure many of you have seen is here. Now, there is the Acousticom and the Acousticom 2. The Acousticom 2 is the one with one set of readings, which gives you the peak, and the other one that you see with 2, which is almost twice the price, it gives you the average. And all we're really interested in is the peak. Now, I know that 5G, along with the Trifield meter, 5G goes up into, you know, really high ranges of microwave, and these don't. But the reason that I'm mentioning these two particular, this one goes up, obviously it would look like it's going up to 6 gigahertz. The Tricom 2, as you can see here, sorry, the Trifield 2, as you can see here, this also goes up to 6 gigahertz, as you can see. I don't know if it's showing you here yet. So up to 6 gigahertz. Now, obviously it's way below the 5G, but here's the point. Most, if not all, of the electromagnetic frequencies that are entering your home are going to be within this range, maybe up to, there are obviously meters that go up to 8 gigahertz. Unfortunately, if you wanted to measure 5G and the upper end of that, you're looking at very expensive commercial EMF meters. But the point being is that the peak value that you can see here, where it says peak, as I showed you on my microwave oven test a little earlier, this is the reading that you actually want, and that should not be going above 1 at any point in time as far as safety levels are concerned. And as you saw on the microwave there, it just went off the scale. I mean, I think I saw 10, which is a million times higher than it should be. So it's fine for testing anything and everything in your home, whether that be phones, routers, ambient EMFs, the whole lot. The range that we've got here is fine. If you're going to go out and walk around the streets trying to measure 5G upper band, then obviously these are going to go off the scale because they exceed safety limits anyway. So you don't actually need to measure the actual upper band of the 5G range, because to be honest with you, you wouldn't be able to afford it. They are in the thousands of dollars and thousands of pounds range. I personally would obviously recommend the Trifield 2 because I use it and I'm quite happy, and it's got a lot more going for it than the Acousticom 2, which is this one here, which is pretty basic, but it's only going to cost you £137.50, and that's probably around about what, $175 or thereabouts. So it's entirely up to you, but I will leave the link in the description below to the meters as well, because that way everything I've covered so far, you can test the before and after, especially with the paint and making your own DIY EMF paint, as I've shown you there. All right, so let me just show you one more idea that's going to save you an awful lot of money but do a fantastic job, which is this.
It's called flyby copper mesh. It's actually used to stuff in holes so that birds and mice don't get in, and of course it doesn't rust since it's pure copper. It's actually a 100-foot roll. It's about $38. They even sell it at Home Depot and Lowe's. Not all Lowe's carry it. I think you have to order it at Lowe's. But anyway, a 100-foot roll of it, which would let you do 3 walls, actually let you do it, depending on the actual design that you do. But we're talking about high band 5G, blackout 5G, and of course lining walls with copper mesh is exorbitantly expensive, and it would look really tacky. But 2 walls, this has actually been proven to bring down radiation attenuation at the high band 5G from 100 microvolts with up to 70% attenuation depending on the frequency, down to roughly 30 or less microvolts. And you don't actually have to cover the entire wall in mesh. You can actually do signal attenuation. I have a couple designs for arrays. These are known to work. One of them is this, and each one of these you'd have to be able to solder. you need is some like 12 or 14 gauge wire, and it would have to be dropped outside, and you can buy, you can get these on eBay. They're called grounding poles. They have a screw there where you actually attach a wire to ground the signal. What you actually have to do with each one of these loops, and you can see they're shaped like a G. They're not actual loops. You do them in a checkerboard pattern. It would be the flyby mesh. Look this up. I'll put a link below. It's called flyby copper mesh. And a $40 roll of 100-foot flyby mesh, you can actually do 70% or higher 5G signal attenuation. And these look like G's. You actually see this. You could use thumbtacks. You could use any amount of, and it's very lightweight copper mesh. And you'd actually attach it to the wall in a G-shaped pattern, roughly a foot. It doesn't have to be exact. Each one of these, however, will have to be soldered. A 14 gauge wire, and all of these brought to a single wire. In other words, all of these, or you could actually drop, but that's too many wires. You could have all of these attached to a single connection point that actually goes outside your window. It has to be grounded. Also, too, another pattern that you could actually do is one corner, the corner of one wall to the base of the other side corner, and inverse to that over here, and then you could do four loops. I'm calling these loops, but they're shaped exactly like a G, and each one of these, both of these arms and both of these G's actually has to be attached to a grounding wire, and it needs to be dropped outside or whatever you have in your house, depending you live in a condo. It has to be grounded. Yeah, grounding. This is not tinfoil hat crap. This is scientific fact. It will literally, and you can check it with a frequency counter. Just realize that your cell phone ain't going to work so hot in there. So that's the cheapest of drywall.
So as you can see there, that simple copper mesh, originally designed to keep rodents out of the house, can be bought very cheaply and used as a kind of antenna array to attenuate, to lessen the impacts of 5G entering your home if you just put it up on a pattern on your wall, connect them all together, and then earth them. My final cheap but effective method is something you can do with very little cost, and that is using mylar, as you can see here.
The mylar blanket is sold over the internet as a heat insulation emergency blanket. It costs only a few bucks, but it can block radio frequency electromagnetic radiation. You can use it as a temp chip RF blocking material. And now for the testing.
And there you have that very short clip. But what I love about this is its simplicity, and obviously the fact it's so cheap. You could find, in theory, you could stick this on your walls and cover it over, especially if you have it double thick. You can test the before and after with the correct meter. And if you think about this, add this to a full roll of material you purchased from source, so to Alibaba or wherever you want to get it, the actual net curtain material. You could, in theory, protect your whole home from external EMFs intrusion for very little. Now, I am aware that I have not covered the personal pendants, sugar night crystals, or any other personal EMF protection ideas and claims, and no doubt people will give their take on these in the comments below, I am hoping. But if I were to attempt to cover everything currently available, this episode would need several parts to it, and as you now know, it's honestly long enough. But please drop any ideas that you have tried and tested for yourself, as I am sure others would love to know about all the things not mentioned here and can act as a great information source, the comments that is, for everyone concerned about EMFs and health issues, which should be everyone. But in the end, I do hope that you found this EMF solutions-based episode of the observation deck of help and interest, and that you know that there is much more you can now do to help yourself in simple ways, even with that copper mesh, in a world that's increasingly becoming harmful to health for the sake of profit sold as progress. And as always, I wish you could help support my work via PayPal, Patreon and Bitcoin, and use some of the links below, because not all of them are affiliate links, but some of the links below which I think will give you a 20% discount off the ones that are affiliate links. And there are so many links that I shared with you in this description, I can't actually remember which ones are which, but they'll help me earn a small commission of my sales. And obviously, in a world that is currently going even more crazier than it was in January, I hope a solution-based episodes away from all the mental cacophony that we're going through everywhere in the world, especially to our American cousins over there with such challenging times. I hope this solution-based episode has brought you a little respite from that. So, as always, question everything, believe nothing, and stay curious. And I'll see you on deck very soon. Take care.